Welcome along. This is our deep dive, specifically designed as a study guide for anyone prepping for the University of London's LLB Jurisprudence exam.
Yeah, if that's you, you're definitely in the right spot. We're going to unpack the Topic 1 Module Introduction document for 2024-25.
We'll pull out the really key stuff you need to focus on for your preparation.
And right at the start, it's really important we acknowledge the University of London. We're very grateful they make these materials available to students.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, all this content is purely for educational purposes.
And this deep dive is brought to you by Sinorbit Academy, Sri Lanka.
Yes, and from both of us, seriously, good luck to everyone hitting the books for the jurisprudence exam. You've got this.
Okay, so jurisprudence. What actually is it?
Good question. It sounds kind of heavy, right?
It can be, but fundamentally, it's about asking those really big questions about law. Like, why do we even have it? What's its real purpose?
And how does it actually work in society? Not just the rules, but the whole system dealing with justice, morality, all that stuff.
Exactly. It often involves digging into quite tricky, conflicting ideas about right and wrong.
So this module isn't just about learning legal rules off by heart. It's really designed to make you think critically, reflectively about law's foundations.
You'll be getting into some major thinkers in legal and political philosophy, mostly from the sort of Anglo-American common law world. It's about understanding the theories behind the law.
Right, the underlying ideas. And a key aim is to get you thinking theoretically about everyday legal stuff.
Yeah, it pushes you to look at doctrinal questions, specific legal rules or cases, from a more abstract perspective, and doing that really sharpens your legal reasoning.
Makes sense. Helps you question assumptions, build better arguments.
And critique other arguments, too. Very important skill.
And the module convener is Jill Marshall, professor of law at Royal Holloway, University of London. So top expertise behind this.
Definitely. Now, thinking about what you need to get out of this module, the learning outcomes are pretty clear. Knowledge-wise, it's about understanding these big legal and political philosophies, their main arguments about law.
And getting a handle on the range of topics and debates, especially those methodological questions like how we study law.
Ontological questions, what law is, fundamentally.
And normative questions, what law should be, what makes it legit.
Spot on. And then there are the skills outcomes.
Right, not just knowing stuff, but doing stuff. Like constructing proper philosophical arguments.
Critically assessing theories, applying abstract ideas to real problems. That's a big one.
And being able to present your arguments clearly, whether you're writing an essay or discussing it.
And just so you know, this all lines up with the QAA subject benchmark for law from 2023. So it's current, recognized stuff.
Okay, so let's map out the module structure, kind of a roadmap for studying. First up.
The nature of jurisprudence itself. What it covers, the philosophical methods used, its link to analytical philosophy, basically setting the scene.
Got it.
Natural law theory. Its history, thinkers like Fuller and Finnis, and the criticisms, of course.
Natural law, that's the one linking law and morality, right?
Broadly, yes. Law based on reason or morality. Then you pivot to legal positivism.
Okay, the other side of the coin.
Pretty much. Positivism says law and morality are separate things. Law is based on social facts, commands, rules established by society.
So you look at Austin's command theory, Kelson's sanction theory.
Exactly. But the big one here is H.L.A. Hart. His book, The Concept of Law. Absolutely crucial.
And his idea of the rule of recognition.
Yes, that's central. That master rule that tells us how to identify valid laws in a particular system, you really need to grasp that.
And the big debates involving Hart.
Oh, yeah. The Hart-Fuller debate, that classic clash over law and morality, especially in, really unjust regimes.
And Hart Workin.
That's about whether law is just rules, as Hart thought, or if it includes principles, too, which was Workin's big argument.
And Raz fits in here, too.
But,
with authority.
Right. Joseph Raz builds on Hart, talking about law's claim to authority and how legal rules function as exclusionary reasons to not consider other factors.
Okay, so after positivism.
You get into interpretivist theories, mainly focusing on Ronald Dworkin.
Law as integrity.
That's his key idea. Law as a coherent, principled whole that judges discover through interpretation, plus critiques of his view.
Then a section on legal reasoning itself.
Yep. How judges decide cases, looking again at Raz's ideas on practical reason, and especially Dworkin's views on hard cases.
Cases where the law isn't immediately obvious.
Precisely. And finally, the module brings in critical perspectives.
Like,
Liberalism and law, Marxist theories looking at law, state, power, economics.
and feminist jurisprudence, critiquing
Yeah.
law through the lens of gender.
Exactly. Thinkers like McKinnon, Crenshaw, Duzinas, Geary might come up later. And crucially,
The set case.
the set case. There'll be an in-depth study of a specific prescribed case. It's compulsory for the exam. You absolutely must know which case it is when it's announced.
Okay, let's drill down into study strategy. The core textbook mention is Freeman's Lloyd's Introduction to Jurisprudence.
Yes, it's great because it gives you analysis and extracts from the original thinkers. Austin, Kelson, Hart, Dworkin, all in one place.
And the advice is to read the module guide with Freeman.
Definitely. The guide points you to the most important bits in Freeman and other readings.
And we've already flagged Hart's The Concept of Law as essential reading on its own.
Cannot stress that enough, especially understanding that rule of recognition.
And for Dworkin.
You really need to tackle his main books, Law's Empire and Taking Rights Seriously.
The guide points to specific chapters.
Yes, like what is law and interpretive concepts in Law's Empire, and hard cases, constitutional cases, in Taking Rights Seriously. That's where you find the core of his arguments about interpretation and principles.
Are there other helpful books mentioned?
Yeah, some supplementary ones like Cotterell, Simmons, Penner, and Milisaris are suggested. Good for different angles or reinforcing ideas.
And Nicola Lacey's work gets a mention.
It does. She offers a critique of purely analytical approaches, emphasizing institutions, and she's important in feminist legal theory, worth looking at for a broader perspective.
Right, reading jurisprudence. It can be tough going. Any tips?
The guide itself says, read slowly, read carefully, don't expect to just skim this stuff,
Good advice. Take your time.
and pause. Regularly stop and try to summarize what you've just read, say it out loud, scribble it down, whatever works for you.
Active recall helps it stick.
Massively. And think about what makes the great jurists great. Often it's this combo of, like, sound moral sense and the ability to jump between abstract theory and concrete problems.
I had to cultivate that yourself.
Exactly. And look, I know we sound like a broken record, but read the primary sources. Even the extracts in Freeman count.
Examiners can tell if you haven't.
Often, yes. Engaging directly with Austin, Kelson, Hart, Dworkin, Fuller. It shows in your understanding and your writing. It's fundamental.
And if you want a good overview text to help,
Simmons' Central Issues in Jurisprudence is recommended as a really solid secondary source.
okay, let's quickly clarify some core concepts. Norm.
Broadly, just a standard for judging things. But in law and morality, it's more specific. A standard you're expected to follow, and which is used to judge your actions.
So it guides behavior and evaluates it.
Dual aspect, yeah. Rules are general norms. Orders are usually specific, one-off norms. Raz sees both as potential exclusionary reasons.
Right, reasons to ignore other factors. What about rights?
Rights are norms, but from the individual's viewpoint. Often they link to a duty someone else has. My right to life means others have a duty not to kill me.
Framed by the interests they protect.
Exactly. Free speech protects self-expression. And yeah, rights and duties usually correlate.
But sometimes rights are about what I can do, like free speech again.
Right. Rights to liberties. They set a standard for my behavior, allowing me to act on my interests. This leads to that tricky idea of the right to do wrong legally. You might have the right to say something others deem morally wrong.
But not absolute rights. There are limits.
Of course.
Yeah.
Social order requires limits. Then you have powers.
Different from rights.
Yes. Powers are about changing the norms themselves. Parliament has the power to make law. A judge has the power to issue an order. It's a capacity to alter the legal landscape.
And duties govern how powers are used.
Often, yes. A judge's power isn't unlimited. And finally, duties.
There are norms, too.
Definitely. Exclusionary reasons, again, thinking with Raz, they can correspond to rights or just be imposed by rules for the general good, like traffic laws.
Got it. Okay, assessment. Big focus for students. It's an unseen exam.
Unseen exam, 2 parts. Part 1, answer 1 essay out of 3 choices. Part 2, answer 3 essays out of 9 choices.
And part 1 is all about that set case, the one announced in October.
That's the one. And the focus isn't just what the case decided legally, but its philosophical relevance.
So analyzing the reasoning, spotting underlying theories, thinking about societal views.
Exactly. The guide uses Donahue v. Stevenson as an example, famous negligence case. But for this exam part, you'd look at it philosophically.
Like, how would Dworkin analyze the judge's reasoning? Or a positivist?
Precisely. Or could you critique it using Marxist ideas? Maybe Pashukanis. The exam questions will point you towards specific theories to apply to the set case.
So deep dive into that case and related articles is vital.
Absolutely essential. Then part 2 is 3 essays from 9, but crucially.
No major overlap with part 1?
Right. Choose carefully. Look at past papers to get a feel for the question styles. And remember, no materials allowed in the exam room. 0.
Good to know. The module descriptor just sums up the aims and outcomes we've discussed.
Yeah, reinforces the purpose, the knowledge and skills you'll gain, and Fernie mentions the notional 300-hour study time. Gives you a benchmark.
And resources, the VLE is king.
Your main hub. Module page, guide, updates, past papers, forums, activities, it's all there.
Plus the online library for databases like Lexis, Westlaw, journals.
Invaluable for research. And again, Freeman as the core text. Use it strategically based on the module topics.
Okay, so wrapping up. Key advice is engage with the primary texts, think critically, use the module structure.
Definitely. And keep that exam structure in mind, especially part 1 and the set case. Be ready for that.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Yeah, I think as you get deeper into all this theory, try to think beyond just what the law is. Ask yourself what it ought to be and how our ideas about law actually shape our society. It's pretty fundamental stuff.
Really makes you think. Okay, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. A big thank you again to the University of London for providing these materials. This was brought to you by Sinorbit Academy, Sri Lanka.
And once more, truly the very best of luck to everyone preparing for their jurisprudence exams.